You think you're in control, that you decide what to feel, what to believe, what to think, but you don't, your mind does, and most of the time, you're not the thinker, you're the thought. Right now, your heart beats without your permission, your lungs fill and empty without your awareness, your eyes blink without a command, and yet, you believe your thoughts are different, that you own them, that you create them, but the truth is, they appear the same way your breath does. Automatically. Effortlessly. Uninvited. Thoughts are not commands. They're weather patterns, moving through the sky of your mind. You don't choose them. They choose you. You are not the author. You're the actor reciting lines written by biology, memory, and fear. That's not weakness, it's nature. Your brain processes about 70,000 thoughts a day. Most of them are not new. They're recycled, echoes from yesterday, repackaged as thinking. Psychologists call it automatic cognition. It's your mind's way of running on low energy, using old thoughts to predict your next move. When you think you're deciding, you're often just confirming, repeating what's familiar, defending what feels safe, because your brain doesn't want truth, it wants certainty, and so it builds stories, little shortcuts to make the world predictable. That's why we judge before we know. Why we fear before we see. Why we assume before we understand. You don't think your thoughts, your conditioning does. Behind every thought is a memory. Behind every reaction, a wound. Your subconscious mind is the hidden programmer, writing emotional code beneath the surface. When someone rejects you, it triggers not the present but the past. When you worry about failure, you're not afraid of what's coming. You're afraid of what already happened. The brain confuses memory for reality. It replays old pain and calls it thinking. So you react not to life as it is, but to life as it was. And well, that's how your mind thinks you. There's a voice inside your head, the one that comments, narrates, argues, worries. It says, I can't do this. What if they leave? I'm not good enough. You hear it so often you think it's you, but it's not. It's a collection of voices, parents, teachers, culture, trauma, stitched together into a single tone that calls itself me. But you are not the voice. You are the one hearing the voice, and that difference is everything. Because the moment you can watch your thoughts instead of becoming them, you wake up. That's the beginning of freedom. The mind loves loops, worry, regret, comparison. These are thought patterns designed to keep you busy so you don't notice the truth that you are not your thoughts. Your brain uses rumination, the constant replaying of problems, as a defense against feeling. Thinking becomes a shield, a distraction from what hurts. That's why silence feels uncomfortable. Because silence reveals what thought tries to hide. But if you sit long enough, past the noise, you start to sense something else, a watcher behind the thoughts. That's you, the awareness, the consciousness beneath the code. Overthinking feels productive, it feels like control, but it's a trap. The more you think, the more your brain builds stories, most of which never happen. Psychologists call this cognitive distortion. You predict pain that doesn't exist and call it being careful. You overanalyze the past and call it learning. But really, you're feeding the parasite, the voice that grows stronger every time you believe it's you. You can't outthink the mind, you can only outwatch it. Close your eyes. Watch a thought appear. It comes out of nowhere. You didn't make it. Now watch it fade. You didn't erase it either. That's proof. You're not the thought. You're the space it moves through. That awareness, the watcher, the silence, the observer, that's who you really are. You've been buried under the noise of 70,000 voices that never belonged to you, but underneath them all is stillness, and that stillness is where you begin. When you start to separate yourself from thought, everything changes. Pain no longer owns you. Fear becomes information, not identity. Anger becomes energy, not chaos. You stop reacting and start choosing, because now you understand, the mind is not your master. It's your tool, and you are the consciousness that learns how to use it. The book Power of Now talks about the benefits of staying in the present and being grateful for it. It has helped me understand how the mind, which we think we use every day, is using us constantly, and how it prevents us from being in the present. Not to be able to stop thinking is a dreadful affliction, but we don't realize this because almost everybody is suffering from it, so it is considered normal. Identification with your mind creates an opaque screen of concepts, labels, images, words, judgments and definitions that block all true relationships. It comes between you and yourself, between you and your fellow man and woman, between you and nature, between you and God. Thinking has become a disease. Disease happens when things get out of balance. For example, there is nothing wrong with cells dividing and multiplying in the body, but when this process continues in disregard of the total organisms, cells proliferate, and we have disease. The mind is a superb instrument if used rightly. Used wrongly, however, it becomes very destructive. To put it more accurately, it is not so much that you use your mind wrongly, you usually don't use it at all. It uses you. This is the disease. You believe that you are your mind. This is a delusion. The instrument has taken you over. You mean stop thinking altogether? No, I can't, except maybe for a moment or two. Then the mind is using you. You are unconsciously identified with it, so you don't even know that you are its slave. It's almost as if you were possessed without knowing it, and so you take the possessing entity to be yourself. The moment you start watching the thinker, a higher level of consciousness becomes activated. You then begin to realize that there is a vast realm of intelligence beyond thought, that thought is only a tiny aspect of that intelligence. You also realize that all the things that truly matter, beauty, love, creativity, joy, inner peace, arise from beyond the mind. You begin to awaken. Virtually everyone hears a voice, or several voices, in their head all the time. The involuntary thought processes that you don't realize you have the power to stop. The voice isn't necessarily relevant to the situation you find yourself in at the time. It may be reviving the recent or distant past, or rehearsing or imagining possible future situations. Here, it often imagines things going wrong and negative outcomes. This is called worry. Sometimes this soundtrack is accompanied by visual images, or mental movies. Even if the voice is relevant to the situation at hand, it will interpret it in terms of the past. The good news is that you can free yourself from your mind. You can take the first step right now. Start listening to the voice in your head as often as you can. This is what I mean by watching the thinker, which is another way of saying listen to the voice in your head. Be there as the witnessing presence. When you listen to that voice, listen to it impartially. That is to say, do not judge. That's the real power. Not to think more, but to see the thinker. You are not the storm of your mind. You are the sky it moves through. Thoughts will come, they will leave, but you remain. That's awareness. That's freedom. That's truth. You're not thinking. Your mind is thinking you. But when you wake up, when you become the watcher, you stop being a character in the story and start becoming the author. Awareness is everything.